My name is Lin Chia. I just received my college entrance exam results, and they are a disaster. My genetic potential is only 5%, which is too low for any public martial arts university. In this interstellar age, failing this exam means I am destined to be an ordinary person. My dreams of becoming a powerful martial artist and exploring the stars feel like they are slipping away. When I returned home, the reality of my situation became even clearer. My family is poor and cannot afford to send me to a private university, which costs hundreds of thousands of credits. My parents want me to accept a government job placement, just like my brothers. To them, being a farm manager, getting married, and collecting government subsidies for having many children is a stable and happy life. However, I cannot accept being just another part of a social machine. I traveled to this world from Huaxia, and I refuse to spend my life in a never-ending cycle of farming and raising children just to survive. I want to see the wider universe and become a pioneer. I even considered taking out a massive loan to pay for a private academy, even though the risk of failing and ending up in debt for life is very high. As I lay in bed, torn between accepting a boring life or taking a dangerous gamble, something incredible happened. A mechanical voice echoed in my head, announcing the arrival of the prosperity system. It explained that by having many high-quality descendants, my own bloodline and strength will increase. After 18 years of waiting, my cheat code has finally arrived. My path to power won't be through traditional schooling, but through building a legendary family. I confirmed that the system is real and it has changed everything for me. I now understand that my path to power is through my family. The stronger my partner is, the more my strength will increase through our children. This is the only way for someone like me to rise in this world. The next morning, I shocked my parents by telling them I decided to skip the private university and accept the government's job placement instead. They were incredibly relieved, thinking I had finally given up on my unrealistic dreams of being a warrior. They believe a steady job as a farm manager and a simple life is the best I can hope for. I quickly used my terminal to confirm the placement, which assigned me to work as a farm administrator, just like my brothers. The most important part came next, choosing a partner. The government presented me with 3 choices. The first 2 were young, ordinary women with no debt, which my parents loved. However, I was drawn to the third candidate, by Mushi. She is 28 years old and an apprentice martial artist. Choosing her comes with a massive problem. She has a student loan debt of 900,000 credits, and I would be responsible for half of it immediately. My parents were horrified and tried to stop me. They pointed out that the debt would crush us and that she is too old compared to the others. They warned me that a martial artist would never settle down and would drain all our money on her training. Despite their anger and logical arguments, I didn't back down. I am not interested in an easy, ordinary life. Because of my system, I need a partner with high potential to ensure our children are strong. Bai Mushi is a martial artist, which makes her the best choice for my future growth. I decided to meet her, knowing that this bad investment is actually my best chance to become a true warrior. I decided to stick to my plan despite my parents' anger. I headed to the government building to meet Bai Mushi. When she walked into the small, cold meeting room, I was stunned. She was much more striking in person than in her photo. Her years of martial arts training had given her an athletic, healthy figure and a youthful appearance that hid her 28 years perfectly. The atmosphere was tense. She looked at me with distance, likely tired of being judged like a product. She was honest about her situation. She carried a massive debt and refused to give up her dream of becoming a true martial artist. She had been rejected by 8 men already because she insisted on continuing her expensive training after marriage. She even suggested using government subsidies from having children to pay for her tuition. I listened quietly as she explained her plan. She was desperate because her family had cut her off, and she faced forced labor if she didn't find a partner. When I didn't answer immediately, she thought I was like the others and prepared to leave. But I stopped her. I wasn't scared away by her debt or her ambition. In fact, her background as a martial artist was exactly what I needed for my system to work. I asked her if she was serious about having children, and though she was embarrassed, she confirmed it was her only way to afford her path. I told her I wanted as many children as possible. She was shocked when I rejected the idea of just 10 children or a soccer team. I looked her in the eyes and told her I wanted as many as we could possibly have. For her, it was a way to fund her dreams. For me, it was the key to my ultimate power. We had a deal. When I told Mushi I wanted as many children as possible, she was stunned. I could see the shock and embarrassment on her face, but I stayed calm. I was serious. For her, having children was a way to get government money for her martial arts training. For me, it was the only way to trigger my system and gain power. We both realized that even though our reasons were different, our goals lined up perfectly. It was a fair trade. She set her conditions. She would control the child's subsidies for her training. She needed her own space to practice, and she didn't want any physical contact until we were a real couple. I agreed to her training needs, but corrected her on the last point. This wasn't a romance. It was a partnership for a specific goal. If we wanted those subsidies quickly, we had to start immediately. She was shaken, but finally shook my hand. The deal was done. Everything moved fast after that. We signed the papers on our terminals, and the government immediately gave us a small apartment in the grain district. My parents were shocked by the debt I was taking on, but I calmed them down by saying we planned to start a family right away. They didn't know about our secret arrangement, but they were happy to hear about the children because more kids meant more government benefits. We skipped the wedding to avoid drama with our families and moved into our new home. It was a simple 2-bedroom place. I let her take the larger room for her training. That night, the atmosphere was incredibly heavy and awkward. Despite her being a strong martial artist and me being a determined traveler, we were both nervous. As we lay in bed with a small gap between us, the silence was deafening. I tried to act natural, mentioning my new job at the farm, but the tension didn't break. Just as I thought the night would end in silence, she whispered my name. She asked if we were truly starting tonight. When I looked at her, I saw a mix of fear and courage in her eyes. My heart raced as I realized our journey together was officially beginning. After Mushi spoke, her face turned bright red, even her ears flushed. The faint scent of her freshly washed hair filled the air, mixed with a trace of nervousness. She had already taken the first step. How could he back down now? Lin Xie took a deep breath, calming the emotions stirring inside him, and turned toward her. He could feel her tension, like a bowstring drawn tight. Mushi, he said softly, his voice a little dry. He reached out and gently held her hand resting on the blanket. Her hand was cold and trembling slightly. Mushi didn't pull away. She simply closed her eyes, her long lashes casting faint shadows, showing her unease. Soon, Mushi curled up under the blanket, her back facing Lin Xie. Lin Xie lay beside her, about to speak, when suddenly the system's voice echoed in his mind. Beginner's reward has been issued. Please check, host. Lin Xie, genetic potential, 5.15%, physical strength, 51, mental power, 59, spiritual energy, 9, technique. The 128th set of radio exercises, partner, Mushi, affection, 50, children. None. Lin Xie was overjoyed. What is the beginner's reward? Beginner's reward, 1. Genetic potential 1%. 2. Partner Mushi has a 100% chance of conceiving within 10 attempts, only for the first time. The next moment, Lin Xie felt a faint but clear warmth flow through his body, spreading quickly to every part of him. His spirit, once low because of his failed college entrance exam, suddenly lifted, and his body felt lighter. He immediately checked his status panel. Host. Lin Xie, genetic potential, 6.15%, physical strength, 55, mental power, 62, spiritual energy, 10, technique. The 128th set of radio exercises, level 1, partner, Mushi, affection, 50, children. None. His genetic potential had really increased. In this interstellar age where martial arts flourished, the key measure of one's martial talent was genetic potential. Genetic potential represented the limit of how much a person's body could grow and evolve. According to the Galactic Empire's standard martial arts rating system, an ordinary person's genetic potential usually ranged between 1% and 5%. Through training, one could gradually increase it. When a person's genetic potential broke through the 7% threshold, they gained the qualification to become a quasi-warrior, eligible to attempt the warrior stage. This was also the minimum requirement for most public martial arts universities. It was the main reason Lin Xie had failed his exam and was marked as unqualified. Once genetic potential surpassed 10%, it meant a true transformation, stepping into the ranks of real warriors. Becoming a warrior greatly enhanced one's physical strength, mental power, and even lifespan. It was not only an evolution of life itself, but also a major rise in social status. Physical strength and mental power were the direct reflections of genetic potential in training and combat. Physical ability represents overall qualities such as strength, speed, endurance, and recovery. Mental power relates to perception, willpower, focus, and the fine control of energy. Both are important, but in the end, they are limited by one's genetic potential. The higher the genetic potential, the greater the room for growth in both body and mind. As for the last attribute, spirit energy, Lin Xie frowned. Spirit energy. He searched his memory carefully. All the martial arts knowledge he had learned over the years at school didn't seem to mention this term clearly. It was likely a hidden attribute, or perhaps a concept only revealed at a higher level. Lin Xie had a feeling that this spirit energy was extremely important. After all, in the system's list of attributes, it stood alongside strength and mind, not as something optional. For now, however, he couldn't understand its exact function. The system now showed a sign after each of the three attributes. This meant that, based on his current genetic potential of 6.15%, his physical ability, mental power, and spirit energy all had room to grow. Lin Xie could clearly feel his body becoming stronger. The heaviness and fatigue he once felt were gone, replaced by lightness and energy. Every cell seemed full of life, eager to move. He wanted to test his strength right away to see how much he had improved. But it was late at night, the public testing center was closed, and appointments had to be made in advance during the day. He forced himself to calm down and turned his attention to another reward from the system. Bai Mushi's chance of success has increased to 100% within 10 attempts. Lin Xie's eyes unconsciously shifted to Bai Mushi beside him. She was still turned away, her body slightly curled, breathing evenly as if she were asleep. Now that the system had given such a clear guarantee, success within 10 tries, what was there to hesitate about? Lin Xie wasn't a selfish person. This had been Bai Mushi's wish as well. At that moment, all of Lin Xie's worries disappeared. He quietly adjusted his position and carefully put his arm around her. Bai Mushi's body stiffened slightly, and her breathing became uneven. "You, what are you doing?" Lin Xie understood her reaction but didn't pull his arm back. Instead, he moved a little closer. "Mushi," he said softly, his tone calm but firm. Bai Mushi trembled slightly. The night felt endless. Outside the window, the virtual city lights flickered gently, casting a soft glow across the room. Content omitted. After a long time, even the lights outside seemed to grow tired. There will be other chances. No need to rush. Lin Xie was about to say something like, "Let's rest for now, or we can continue tomorrow," when he noticed that Bai Mushi, who had closed her eyes, was now looking at him. Her clear, beautiful eyes shimmered softly, and her cheeks were still slightly red from emotion. "Huh." Lin Xie blinked, surprised. The next moment, Bai Mushi's sudden movement made him widen his eyes. She smiled faintly, her expression calm but confident, and with a quick motion, she turned over, switching their positions. "Bai Mushi." Lin Xie. He looked into her eyes, now filled with a completely different kind of determination. Then he suddenly remembered. She was a martial artist in training. Even though his own abilities had recently improved, Bai Mushi had been practicing martial arts for years. Her strength and endurance were far beyond what he could match as a beginner. His current stats were around 60 in every category, while a martial artist's stats ranged from 70 to 100. Lin Xie couldn't help but smile helplessly. A moment ago, he was still thinking to himself, maybe 6 more times, believing he might need a few days to reach his goal. But now, it seemed Bai Mushi had a very different plan. Seeing the determination in her eyes and her confident posture, Lin Xie felt his blood surge again, though his waist was already starting to ache slightly. Was this going to completely wear him out? A happy kind of trouble, perhaps coming a bit too soon. The night felt unusually long. "Let's stop here for today," she said softly, her tone gentle but carrying a hint of pride in her own stamina. Lin Xie opened his eyes, still catching his breath. He secretly glanced at the system panel in his mind. Partner by Mushi's pregnancy progress. September 10th. Just one more step. Only one final effort left. Thinking of the great rewards the system would bring once activated and the future benefits that might follow, Lin Xie felt a new wave of energy rise within him. He took a deep breath, his eyes sharpening again as he said firmly, "No? One more time." Bai Mushi looked at him in surprise, her bright eyes wide with disbelief. She could clearly sense his exhaustion. He had already pushed himself to the limit. "Are you sure you can handle it?" she asked softly, her voice filled with both concern and a strange admiration for his persistence. "Maybe we should stop for today. I'll make you some soup tomorrow to help you recover." At the mention of soup, her cheeks turned red. When had she ever thought about cooking for a man before? But now, she was his partner, his wife. Making soup didn't seem like such a big deal anymore. Although Lin Xie could be a bit stubborn, his effort and determination tonight truly impressed her. His refusal to give up made her feel an unexpected sense of admiration. Maybe she hadn't chosen the wrong man after all. While Bai Mushi was lost in thought, Lin Xie had already moved again, taking the lead once more. Bai Mushi was startled by his sudden movement and cried out instinctively, "You're still going?" Her voice was full of disbelief. "Congratulations, host. Your partner Bai Mushi is expecting a child. Reward obtained. Random cultivation skill unlocked. Permission granted. The 128th set of galactic exercises. The 128th set of galactic exercises. Level 1, 0/10. Congratulations, host. Your partner Bai Mushi is expecting a child. Reward obtained. Random cultivation skill unlocked. Permission granted. The 128th set of galactic exercises. The 128th set of galactic exercises. Level 1, 0/10. Lin Xie froze for a moment and asked in his mind, "What does this cultivation permission mean?" A system message appeared in his mind, explaining the function in detail. He quickly understood. This so-called cultivation permission unlocked meant that he could now see his exact progress through the system panel. Before, when he practiced the 128th set of galactic exercises, it was like groping in the dark. He never knew if he was doing it right, whether it was effective, or when he might improve. Now, the system clearly displayed the 128th set of galactic exercises, level 1, 0/10. That meant if he practiced this set 10 more times, he would level up to level 2. Lin Xie's eyes widened in shock, his heart surging with excitement. 10 times? That was unbelievable. The 128th set of galactic exercises had been promoted by the Galactic Empire for over 1,000 years, revised 128 times, and was known as the most universal and basic beginner's cultivation method. It didn't depend on a person's physical condition or require any special tools. Anyone could practice it. Although progress was usually slow, it was safe and stable, making it the Empire's most widely used method for identifying martial talent. Lin Xie had practiced this very set since elementary school, for 10 whole years, yet he had never advanced beyond level 1. That was one of the main reasons his genetic potential and physical ability scores were so low in the college entrance exams. And now, the system was telling him that just 10 more sessions would let him break through? This many children, many blessings system was simply unbelievable. A surge of excitement and regret filled Lin Xie's heart. If only this system had appeared a year earlier. No, even half a year earlier. His exam results would have been much better. He might have gotten into a public martial arts university. No, not just might have. He definitely would have. Thinking of this, Lin Xie no longer cared about his exhaustion. A strong desire pushed him forward. He suddenly jumped out of bed, landing firmly on the floor. Bai Mushi, who had been lying lazily on the bed, ready to praise Lin Xie for his amazing perseverance, was stunned when she saw him suddenly start doing the familiar set 128 radio calisthenics right there in the bedroom. His body was indeed at its limit, his strength completely drained. Every movement looked difficult. The once smooth calisthenics routine now appeared shaky and uneven, far from standard. Bai Mushi frowned, puzzled. What on earth was this man doing? Radio calisthenics? He was already working. Who still practiced that? During her 8 years in college, she had done many part-time jobs, most of them teaching martial arts to children. Even middle-class families rarely practiced this anymore, let alone wealthy ones. Simply put, it wasn't worth the effort. Take the popular Golden Bull Marshall Bureau's 8-treasure technique, for example. With a teacher's guidance, efficiency could increase by more than 10%. That difference could mean success or failure. Over time, the gap between students became enormous. And looking at him now, barely able to stand, there was clearly no training effect at all. He had already practiced many times tonight. How could he still keep going? Yet Lin Xie seemed to have entered a state of complete focus. Gritting his teeth, relying on sheer willpower, he forced himself to finish every move of the entire routine. When the final movement was done, Lin Xie stopped, completely exhausted. He gasped for breath, sweat pouring down his body like a stream. He quickly checked the system panel in his mind. Set number 128 of radio calisthenics. Level 1, 1/10. It worked. It actually counted as one valid round of training. Joy filled Lin Xie's heart. Though his body felt like it was falling apart, his spirit was full of excitement. However, that excitement didn't last long. His body had already reached its limit. Once his tense nerves relaxed, a wave of deep fatigue swept over him. Thud! Before he could even say a word to Bai Mushi, his vision went dark, and he fell backward. He landed on the bed with a dull sound, and soon, loud snores filled the room. Hey, Lin Xie, you haven't even taken a shower yet. You smell terrible, you messy man. Bai Mushi frowned in disgust, but when she saw him sleeping so soundly, she reached out her slender, fair hand. She gently brushed aside the damp hair on his forehead, her eyes soft and thoughtful. Sigh. She let out a quiet sigh, looking at his sleeping face with a puzzled expression. This man. She really couldn't figure him out. What on earth was going on with him? After a long moment, Bai Mushi sighed again and thought to herself, looks like I really need to make some soup tomorrow. The next morning, Lin Xie woke up to the rich smell of food. The aroma filled his nose, making his empty stomach growl. He slowly opened his eyes and saw an unfamiliar ceiling. Oh, right, it was the ceiling of his new home. A dull headache and the soreness all over his body reminded him of last night's hard work. You're awake? A calm voice, with a hint of hidden warmth, came from nearby. Lin Xie turned his head and saw Bai Mushi carefully walking out of the small kitchen, holding a clay pot. She was wearing a simple cotton home dress, her long hair loosely tied back, showing her smooth forehead and delicate profile. Morning light streamed through the window, covering her in a soft glow. The sharpness she usually carried seemed to fade, replaced by a gentle warmth. At that moment, her focused and serious expression made Lin Xie pause in admiration. What is this? Lin Xie struggled to sit up, watching Bai Mushi place a clay pot on the table. The aroma grew stronger. Without looking at him, Bai Mushi calmly filled a bowl of soup and said in a flat tone, You're awake? Come have some soup. You used up a lot of energy last night. Hearing that, Lin Xie's face turned red as memories of last night flashed through his mind. Feeling a bit embarrassed, he scratched his head and got out of bed. As soon as he stood up, his legs felt weak and his waist ached slightly. Hiss! Lin Xie winced. It seemed the difference in stamina between a trained fighter and an ordinary person was truly huge. Bai Mushi noticed his reaction, the corners of her lips curving slightly before she quickly returned to her usual calm expression. She frowned a little and said with mild annoyance, Go take a shower. You smell terrible. Lin Xie looked awkward. He lowered his head and sniffed himself. After a night of sweat and exhaustion, he really didn't smell great. He quickly replied, Okay, I'll go right now. Then he dashed into the bathroom. Living in the new apartment really was nice. Although the government-assigned housing wasn't large, it had everything they needed. Most importantly, he no longer had to share a single bathroom with his parents and 3 younger siblings. Hot water poured from the shower, washing away his fatigue and clearing his thoughts. Soon, Lin Xie finished washing up. With a towel wrapped around his waist, he dried his damp hair and stepped out of the bathroom. Because of last night's effort and a slight improvement in his physical condition, his body looked more defined than before. Though not muscular, the faint outline of his abs showed the healthy energy of a young man.